In 2006, I was 19. I joined a rock crawling off-road club in Colorado called Camp Karnage. We would go on several big rock crawling trips every year, some of the toughest trails in Colorado and South Dakota and Utah, but even more fun than that, my favorite part about being in the club was this thing called the Karnage Cup. I call the Karnage Cup a rally race. I'm sure real rally drivers would take umbrage with that. It was basically, at the time, my friend had a glorified dirt bike track in his backyard. We would buy cheap cars and race them against each other. It's the most fun you could ever possibly have. There's no feeling quite like jumping a car. There's literally nothing on the planet more fun than that. Basically, there were very few rules. Just buy a cheap car, come out, everybody competes. We had a great time. One part rally race, a little bit of demolition derby, just the greatest time. So there were 3 Karnage Cups in 06, 07, and 08. I took second the first year, first the second year, and did not finish the third year. All in the same car. I found this awesome little 82 RX-7 with the rotary. They have a bad reputation, but the car was literally bulletproof. I came off a jump, broke the oil cooler off, ran every drop of oil out of this car, got back into the pits, screwed the 2 ends back together, topped it off, and that was in the very first race, so it lasted 3 whole races like that. Fast forward 15 years, now I've got a little space of my own. What better thing to do? We're bringing back the Karnage Cup. So in 2021 was the 15-year anniversary. I built a track in my backyard. When it came time to build my track, I have some great friends who own a heavy equipment company, and they dropped off a big D9 dozer, which was perfect for building a racetrack. They also, performance equipment specialists in Denver, they also provide a water truck. The dust is the biggest problem I have out at the event, so they've really come through with the water truck, so super grateful to have them on board. And a few of them participate in the race, so it just works out great for everybody. So it's 1 long straightaway, a tight right, 2 S-curve turns, 2 90s, and then back into the straightaway. And on the straightaway, I built an absolutely humongous jump, like way, way too big, but you know, sort of figuring out how to build a track. Put the word out to some of my friends. My only rule for that first year was cars only. No trucks or SUVs. Levels the playing field and definitely keeps things safer. The trucks are just, you know, too much. So limiting it to cars kind of keeps everybody on the same even keel. 2 weeks before, everybody brings their cars out, hit the big jump, everybody smashes their radiators. So I spent 2 weeks putting radiators back in cars so we actually have an event on race day. It was a lot of fun. Everybody had a great time. So race day comes and everybody, I said, oh yeah, invite your friends. Well, everybody kind of told everybody, and you know, next thing you know, my whole backyard is full of people. We had, I mean, easily over 100 spectators this first time, and we did a big pig roast, and everything's free. Everybody just had the best time. The spirit of the event is, I try to hit this sweet spot for people who actually want to come out and do some racing, but then also just if you want to show up in a jalopy and get out there and have fun, we put everybody out there at the same time, and it's perfect. We do a qualifying lap to sort of see where everybody fares, and then we go out there and do some racing, and we do 10-minute heats. So it's kind of an endurance race too, because you know, keeping these cars flat out for 10 minutes is pretty hard on them. So I would divide the group into 2 groups. There are who I would call the fun people, like myself, who look for V8 rear-wheel drive cars. I'm a big Ford guy, so I look for Crown Vics. The first year I had a first-gen Crown Vic and a Thunderbird. And then the second group would be the smart people who buy a Subaru and win every time. So everybody knew ahead of time, hey, you know, take it easy through the jump or you're gonna smash your radiator and your car's not gonna make it. Well, nobody listened, including myself. Everybody smashes all their radiators and the Subarus. Believe it or not, the thing that makes the Subarus good is not their rally pedigree. It's actually that they have a pretty beefy cross member under the radiator so they can bottom out and nothing gets smashed and they can keep going. So that works out great for them. So your first year, first, second, and third, all Subarus. And we did have a few calamities. So the first year, my friend Hannah, she was driving a front-wheel drive Subaru, totally beat to crap car, but she probably did more laps than anybody. She probably did 100 laps that day. Even in between the heats, she's out there practicing and trying to get faster and faster. The suspension on this car was completely ripped out. The front struts, when she would come out of the jump, would fall out of the car, and then when she'd land, they'd pop back into place. And also, she'd picked up a second set of wheels and snow tires for the car, and the wheels, they had like the right bolt pattern, but just could not keep the lug nuts tight. So she'd do 3 or 4 laps, have to come back in and we tighten up the lug nuts, and eventually the holes got wallered out on one of the wheels. She comes around the corner, the car goes this way, the wheel goes this way. Luckily, just ran into the ditch and everything was fine. It was a pretty hilarious moment. Everybody really liked that. Then in the finale, my friend Anthony was driving a second gen Crown Vic. He was in a good spot to win the overall event, really fast driver. He's coming down the straightaway. Something happens to where the throttle gets stuck on this car and the berm turns into a jump. And he sends this thing, I mean, at least 6 feet in the air, lands on the flat, smashes everything. Luckily, he was okay. He's a big meatball and was strapped in pretty tight. So, you know, it's not without its close calls, but just absolutely the most fun you can have. Everybody loves the event. 2022 rolls around. Time for round 2. So this time I thought, okay, how can I enhance the overall event? So I doubled the size of the track. So now it's 3/4 of a mile long. And for the second add-on, I used it as a joker lap. So at some point in the 10-minute heat, you got to hit the joker lap once. That's good for spreading the cars out a little bit and adding a sort of competitive element. You have to be smart about where in the pack you want to hit the joker lap. And also we did qualifying again, but this time I tricked everybody and reversed the order. So the slowest cars were in front and the fastest cars were in the back, just to make some more racing, and everybody loved it. This year I was ready. I had a fresh 2nd gen Crown Victoria. I built a big skid plate under my radiator, welded the diff, snow tires, ready to go. I said, I need to win my own race, at least finish. And this time it was great. Oh, and also I tamed down the big jump and made 3 smaller jumps, thinking it would keep all the cars together. It did not, but still had a great time. It's good for the spectators too. So into the heats, again, we're doing 10-minute heats. And I see the temperature gauge on my car coming up and up. I know these police interceptors, they're great when they're going 90 miles an hour down the road, but in the backyard and dust and with my foot all the way to the floor for 10 minutes straight, the temperature's climbing, and about the 9-minute mark with about 1 lap to go, I'm easily a whole lap ahead of everybody. The car goes into limp mode and quits. So again, for the 2nd year in a row, I did not finish my own race, but everybody again had a great time. Some really fun cars, a turbo PT Cruiser, just a little bit of everything you can think of. So this year, the 2nd year, where there were probably over 300 spectators. So, we ran out of food, but everybody just had the greatest time. So we're gearing up for the 3rd year. The event is right on the edge of being too much to handle, but everybody just loves it so much. We're gonna do whatever we can to keep it going for the future. In 21, we had 12 racers and probably 100 spectators. In 2022, we had 15 cars and probably close to 300 spectators throughout the day. So the first year, out of the 12 cars, I would say probably about 6 of them at the end were still in decent condition, enough so that some of them did carry over into the next year and race them over again. The Subarus, they last pretty well, and then some of the more conservative drivers, their cars last. And frankly, they're the smart ones because, they finish. Everybody else who goes out there like me and puts it on kill mode, well, the car is cooked and do not finish. So this year, I'm determined to finish my own race. This year, my plan is, so I've got a new Crown Vic, fresh Crown Vic. I bought an aftermarket big 4-core aluminum radiator. The stock Crown Vic radiator has the transmission and oil cooler and everything built in, and it's pretty thin. It's maybe like 1 thin core. So that's coming out. Delete the AC and put in a big thick radiator. Same skid plate design, and hopefully that'll be enough to keep this thing cool. I'm torn between, if you spend $5,000 to beat $1,000 cars, did you really win anything, But I hate Subarus so much that I refuse to even consider going down that path. So whatever it takes, I'm gonna do it in a Ford and keep losing, but that's okay.
If you're ready for your next adventure, you're gonna need the right car, and the best way to buy your next car is with the help of Premier Financial Services. The Simple Lease from Premier Financial is the most powerful tool in the world of exotic car financing. You get all the benefits of a traditional loan, like the ability to accumulate equity, pay it off at any time, and they give you a perfectly easy to understand amortization table, but you also get the benefits of a lease, the low payment, the flexible terms, the low down payments, but also you get to use some certain tax benefits that leases entitle you to. They've taken great care of me, and I know they'll take great care of you, so check them out now at the link in the description below.